So last night was the big fight that a lot of us were looking forward to. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, he returned to the ring in a legally sanctioned match. And I know a lot of people like myself were just ridiculously happy to have the chance to watch Mike Tyson fight again, to watch Mike Tyson box again. That was a very, very cool feeling going into it. Just was looking so forward to it. They were fighting in AT&T Stadium, the new Texas Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play. Big, immaculate building, about 72,000 people, or no, a lot more than that actually, jammed in to watch the legend, Mike Tyson. People like me, I was born in '84, so about the time my memories kick into gear in the late '80s and early '90s. I mean, Mike Tyson was one of those people. He was up there with Michael Jordan. He was up there with Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He might have retired by then, but he's still very, very famous. I mean, these were the people that were it. They were the deal. If you had anything to do with them, you were somebody. And Mike Tyson, he was boxing. He represented everything good and bad about boxing. And throughout the 90s, we saw a lot of good, a lot of bad. I could talk about Mike Tyson all day, but at the end of the day, the man is a legend. And got to give Jake Paul and his company, Most Valuable Promotions, a lot of credit for putting this on. They put a lot of hype into this, and they had a lot of us excited to watch Mike Tyson box again and to box Jake Paul, who he's kind of playing a character out there. I get that, and he's probably a lot better guy than he presents himself as. But that's his prerogative. He needs to, anything has to have a good bad guy. You have to have a bad guy that people want to see fall. He's kind of made himself that guy, but it's also kind of starting to wane for reasons I go into. So yeah, they had us. They had a lot of people buzzing. This is the most excited people have been for just a pure boxing event in God knows how long. It was on Netflix live. A lot of us are tuning in to watch it, and I know Most Valuable Promotions and Jake Paul are counting the money this morning. They're counting a lot of money. There's probably more money than even. I'm sure they had very, very lofty expectations. I bet they probably broke those expectations. So I give them a lot of credit for that. However, in addition to counting all that money, they do find themselves needing to regain some lost momentum from the actual event itself and how it actually went down last night. For a number of reasons. So it featured 4 fights, which I'm going to get into. I actually made a few notes, believe it or not. We'll see how we can go about that. But so it's live on Netflix, and like I said, Lord knows how many people tuned in. Probably hundreds of millions, probably over 100 million people, I'd imagine, at one point or another. Lord, I mean, we'll have to see the final tally. The Netflix server couldn't handle it. We had a lot of buffering issues all night. It just seemed like every 10 minutes or so we'd have to, basically log off and log back on. And boy, if they count that as individual views, they might get 500 million views. That's neither here nor there. But as far as the views, but that's one issue that in the future they're gonna have to worry about. I know Netflix is planning on or not planning on it's scheduled. They're going to stream some NFL games, I believe, on Christmas. They're advertising that, and they're going to have to get their live TV stuff fixed because they had a lot of technical difficulties last night, in addition to the buffering issues and a lot of memes on Facebook. Hey, I'm really enjoying this Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight, and it's a picture of the Netflix and the streaming circle and all that. And some people said, yeah, here's the server, and it's the old AOL dial-up from the late '90s that I used when I was a teenager. So yeah, that was one thing that really hurt them. I know Jake Paul afterwards kind of bragged about crashing the server. That's not a good thing. Your company needs to make sure that when it chooses a partner, Netflix is a great partner. Netflix obviously is the deal right now. During the show, they advertised the next season of Squid Game, which I'm ridiculously excited about as well. Hopefully, it doesn't let me down as bad as tonight did. And obviously the final season of Cobra Kai. They had They had the two guys, Ralph Macchio and Johnny Lawrence. William Zabka. I can't pronounce his last name, so I just call him Johnny Lawrence because he's awesome. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to Squid Games. Like I said, Netflix is doing a good job. They do need to get the live stuff together. There's a moment where they're interviewing two absolute legends, Lennox Lewis and Evander the Real Deal Holyfield. Evander Holyfield is an absolute treasure of the boxing world, and his mic didn't work. His earpiece wasn't working, and Lennox Lewis had to turn to him and ask him some questions. He wasn't able to really join in the conversation, and I wanted to hear what he had to say. He has a lot of. He was there in boxing's, most recent golden era when it was, Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis, himself. I mean, he just he was there, and just like I said, somebody we'd love to have heard from. So that was aggravating, and they tried to get Jerry Jones, which I mean I don't think he's going to say a whole lot interesting, but I mean he does own the stadium, and when you have technical difficulties there, you might have some issues coming back. He's probably going to want some stuff in his contract or in the contract when he allows you to use his building to say, all right, you're going to make sure this shit gets fixed. So, but that was frustrating, but ultimately, a good show would have saved it. And I feel like we had half of a good show. And unfortunately, the half that was a good show kind of got marred in the end and kind of reminded us why boxing's kind of fallen off the map for a long time here. Some of the shadiness kind of showed itself. So basically, they basically aired 4 matches. There was a bunch of matches before that weren't aired live on Netflix. At least you probably could have got it somewhere. I didn't see it. The first one was a match between a guy from India named Gayat. Hey, let me make sure I'm pronouncing that right. Goyat, the guy from India. He was an actual boxer. He was facing a guy from Brazil named Nunez. Now, the first names I have written down, but I can't pronounce them. I'm just going to be honest. I don't want to disrespect anybody by messing up their first names. This is coming from somebody that's, in all of his election videos, mispronounced Kamala Harris's name quite a bit. So, and by the way, for Kamala Harris, you at least have to take some solace after tonight that the very country that resigningly didn't vote for you about 2 weeks ago also tuned in for this trash heap of a show. So I won't go so far as it's a trash heap, but I mean it was not worth it left us with a bad taste in our mouth. Like I said, Most Valuable Promotions is raking in a lot of money. Jake Paul's raking in a lot of money. They have a lot of momentum to rebuild. But the Nunez guy from Brazil, he's a boxer, but he's also a comedian, a musician, and a YouTube influencer. That kind of seemed to be the theme of the night. A lot of social media influencer. By the way, I don't know where that term influencer comes from. They're not influencing anything. Nobody's going to look at these people and say, yeah, they do that, so I want to do that. You either already agree with him or not. If you already agree with him, you're like, yeah, that guy knows what he's talking about. He's got all these social media followers, so obviously he knows what he's talking about. And he didn't change your mind. He just saying exactly what you think, so you're like, hey, he must be awesome. And if you don't agree with him, you're like, he's just a social media guy. Social media's fake, which it is. And, I think some artificially inflated numbers are there, so anytime they're, introducing people and, instead of talking more about their actual boxing accomplishments and combat fighting accomplishments, they're talking more about social media. Yeah, it's probably a night to try to reinforce social media, which, social media, influencers, celebrities, and all that just took a pretty big hit after the election. And again, I don't mean to keep harping on that, but they were, and honestly, the biggest losers in that whole thing. The mainstream media, social media, influencers who are not very influential. So, anyways, yeah, we had Nunez from Brazil, Goyat from India. He was the real boxer. You can tell he's trying to use this platform to get more boxing matches in India. Apparently, there's a big demand for it there. India is obviously a country that I think is the most populated country in the world now. I think it's surpassed China, despite being much smaller. So yeah, if they can tap into the Indian market, that's 2 billion people that you can go for right there in a very small space. he didn't take the match seriously. He knew he was in there with an influencer. He knew he was in there with somebody that had no business being in the ring with him, and he just kind of showed off and showed out for the crowd, and just kind of made a mockery of the whole thing. Which, I mean, hey, that's his right. I mean, I'd probably be doing the same thing. You know, I've worked so hard to be a professional boxer. I'm having to face a guy who's a part-time boxer and part-time celebrity influencer, social media guy. So that match left a lot to be desired, but you know, it's the first match of 4 matches. The next match was amazing. It was a great 12-round match between Mario Barrios, who's the champion, and Abel Ramos. Now, the champion was Barrios, and he was, I mean, I don't know if I've never heard of either of them, but the announcers were saying that he was the prohibitive favorite. That'd be a major upset if Ramos were to win. Or even not to lose, probably, but they just said, you know, if he wins this, that'd be a huge, huge upset. Barrios was considerably taller, bigger. His reach was greater. He seemed to be faster. He seemed to have better footwork. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not good on. I know pretty much nothing about the technical side of boxing, but even I could tell, especially through those first 5 rounds, Ramos looked like he didn't belong. He got knocked down a couple times. There was debate as to whether or not it was actually 2 knockdowns or 1, but you know, again, I don't know enough about the rules for that, but I mean, for the first 5 rounds, Ramos looked like he did not belong. And then something clicked with him in the 6th round. He knocked Barrios down, and from that point forward, it was pretty evenly matched. Barrios still looked overall better, but Ramos, you could just tell he just had more confidence. He felt like he belonged. He felt like he could win. And you could see it in the way he boxed him. And like I said, those last rounds were really, really good. I mean, they were actually good and fun. And so they got to the end of 12 rounds. There's no knockouts or nothing, so they go to the scorecards, which, you know, you have to factor in the first 5 rounds. When you factor in the first 5 rounds, you know, to me, was it Barrios? Yeah, Barrios, the champion, was by far the superior guy. To me, he should have ran off with that. If you had just done rounds 6 through 12, those 7 rounds, yeah, I could see where it'd be close. But even then, I think Barrios would have taken it. And it was ruled a draw. 3 judges, 1 judged for Barrios, 1 judged for Ramos, and 1 judged as a draw. So it turned out to be a draw. I don't think that was a draw. I give Ramos a ton of credit. When you're out there boxing somebody and you're outclassed, and you find it in you to just flip that switch and have the confidence and knock him down and suddenly look like you belong and, you know, really turn the tables like he did. That's a lot to be said, but that was not a draw. That was a victory by Ramos, and there's just no real 2 ways about that. So kind of a disappointing end to that. Nobody likes a draw, at least in America. Nobody likes a draw. You know, we want to see a winner, we want to see a loser. I mean, I feel like I'd rather see my teams lose than draw. You know, just give me a winner and give me a loser. But especially when I feel an undeserved draw. But that's just my take from that, and that kind of left a little bit of a bad taste. Kind of like, okay, what's going on with these people scoring? Or, you know, they suppose they have a point system, which, by the way, has never been explained to me. These 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 10-8, 9-10, 9-10, 10-9. Never really understood it, but I mean, like I said, that's on me. If I'm going to watch this stuff, I should probably, which I don't plan on really watching anymore, to be honest with you, after tonight, but I should probably look at getting a little bit better. Sorry, here the sun's not killing my face. I look uglier than I already am. And then we got the co-main event, which was a rematch. It was a women's boxing match between Katie Taylor, the champion, and Amanda Serrano, 2 very, very decorated female boxers, both in their mid to late 30s. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Serrano's 38 and Katie Taylor's 30. No, Serrano's 36, Katie Taylor's 38, something like that. Getting up there in age a little bit, but I mean, they can still bring it. And 2 years ago, they kept talking about the match they had 2 years ago. They actually headlined an event at Madison Square Garden, the most popular and well-known arena in the world, the Mecca, especially when it comes to boxing. It's been the Mecca for boxing since the 1920s. and they headlined it, first females to do that. That's a good thing. I mean, that's something worth celebrating. I'm not here to celebrate every little trite accomplishment, but that's something to be celebrated. Women's combat sports was not taken seriously for a long, long time, and you have to give them reason to, and they've done it. They had a very, very good match in Madison Square Garden. They took it to the limit. The match was awarded to Katie Taylor, who was the champion, and there was controversy over the scoring. So, what happened tonight? They had another fantastic match, great match, another match of the century candidate, I guess. I mean, I've not seen enough boxing matches to really know, but I just knew I was on the edge of my seat watching it. They had the 2-minute rounds. I know Katie Taylor says she's been pushing for 3-minute rounds. You could tell her, again, I can't tell you a lot technically about boxing, but it looked to me like she was more of the setup type and would have benefited more from 3-minute rounds. But with 2-minute rounds, you got to go for it, like then and there. She stood there and she held her own. But again, it looked to me like the challenger, Amanda Serrano, was she's from Puerto Rico. Katie Taylor's from Ireland. Looked to me like she was the more aggressive person. She landed more punches. She landed a greater percentage of her punches, according to the thing on there. And when it was all over, it was a unanimous decision in favor of Katie Taylor, which it's like, okay, you're having this rematch from this incredible match in Madison Square Garden with a controversial scoring result, and you followed up here on Most Valuable Productions in Jerry World as a co-main event for a very high-profile main event. And it's another great fight that ends with shady scoring. Amanda Serrano has every right to be mad. Her team has every right to be mad, but I do wish they would not have given a microphone to her trainer the way he did. He was going off. To me, that was unnecessary. To me, that's just like the guy saying, "No, I'm gonna talk about this." He called Katie dirty, which I don't think she was dirty. I mean, there was headbutting. According to Roy Jones Jr., that's to be expected. Because one of them was a southpaw and one of them was orthodox, left-handed versus right-handed. I actually knew those terms. I was a little bit surprised, a little bit with myself. I was probably from watching Rocky movies, to be honest with you. So, I didn't see anything there. She got a point deducted at some point. Serrano had a vicious cut over her eye. I forgot which side it was, but I mean, it looked pretty nasty, and she fought through it. She deserves a lot, but Katie Taylor also stood in there and withstood the barrage and gave a barrage of her own. Did a very good job, but to me, Serrano pretty clearly won that match, and a lot of people are saying she pretty clearly won the Madison Square Garden match. So I don't know what's going on there. That kind of put a little of a damper on that. I mean, it was a great match, but you also have to kind of wonder, okay, what's going on behind the scenes? And again, if you're Most Valuable Promotions, you have to be looking into that. So that was the first 3 matches. Like I said, 2 great matches that kind of marred a little bit by scoring decisions, baffling scoring decisions. But then we got to the main event. We got to see Mike Tyson again, 58 years old. I mean, they interviewed him in the locker room, and then they're nice enough to show us his bare ass, which was wonderful to see. I always wondered, just like, I wonder what Mike Tyson's ass looks like. Yeah, and I've never said that before ever, but we did get to see it, so that was could have done without that. Even the lady was saying, yeah, I could have done without that. So, 58-year-old Mike Tyson going up against Jake Paul, who's 27. So Jake Paul, celebrity influencer, social media legend, whatever that's worth. He decided he wants to be a boxer. The thing is, he's not had any real boxing matches. Most people he's fought are either very, very underwhelming or not boxers. Or they're either prominent in another form of combat sports, or in this case, like Mike Tyson, who is 58 years old. And going into it, the announcers did a good job of kind of getting us ready for what we're getting ready to see, and kind of making sure we weren't going to be too terribly disappointed when we saw that Mike Tyson was not the Mike Tyson of old, that he is the old Mike Tyson. just talking about, first of all, they even acknowledge, Jake Paul's not really a real fighter. So at this point, really, Jake Paul needs to either get in the ring with somebody who's an actual fighter, a good, well established, ranked somewhere fighter, top 500 fighter. He's get in there with him or get out and just focus on the promotion side of it. Facing, and that's another thing they brought up was the truth. This is a lose-lose situation for him. He didn't. There's nothing really for him to gain. If he wins, he beat a 58-year-old. You kind of forget just how old that is. That's 18 years older than me, and I couldn't do that. So kudos to Mike for getting in there. It was good to see him again. It was so good to see him and doing that. But the match started, and you could just tell instantly that in that first round, he just didn't. He didn't have the foot speed. You could tell one of his knees was wrapped. So he was very, so he was very limited his mobility. He didn't really move a lot. How Jake Paul didn't dust him off, I don't know. You put Mike Tyson in there at 27 against a legend, a boxing legend. Like, I don't know who would have been about 58. I was a boxing legend in the late 80s. I don't think Muhammad Ali would have been 58 quite yet. So, I don't know, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, I'm sure they're probably well past 58 by then. But if you put him in the ring with a 58-year-old, he would have knocked their head off their shoulders and just walked off with no emotion. So, that just kind of shows you where they're at with that. So, the fact Jake couldn't dust him off, they had the 2-minute rounds for action, but really you could tell it was Mike Tyson got tired real quick. Which you can understand him, he's 58. Probably carrying more weight than he needs to carry. Wasn't a good match. It was a big letdown, and like I said, they just kind of, he kind of showed a little bit of a flurry in the first round, and after that, it's just him trying to survive to, not get knocked out. And Jake Paul won via decision. It was a very, very underwhelming match. Like I said, Jake Paul is not for real when it comes to boxing. Maybe if he trains for another 3 or 4 years, he'll get there, but he's a long ways off. So this is a case where I think he needs to either get in there and show he can do it with a real boxer in his prime, or, like I said, step back and just take on the promotion role, a la Dana White. Just a real letdown. A lot of us, I didn't even watch after the final bell. I knew it was going to be, Jake Paul via decision. I even stayed to watch the interviews. It was late at night too, but for all the excitement I walked in there with, I walked out just feeling kind of let down. Like, really, and I kind of felt dumb. It's like, why did I get that excited over a 58-year-old Mike Tyson? It's always good to see Mike. I love to hear his interviews. He's very real, very honest, for better or worse. He always has been, but he didn't need to be back in the ring. That was, and like I said, quite honestly, for Jake Paul, he kind of exposed himself there. And again, I don't know if he had more in him. He was just showing respect to Mike, or trying to put on a show. But it would have been a much better show if somebody would have got knocked out. To be honest with you, as much as I didn't want to see Mike Tyson get knocked out, if you're going to be the next great boxer, if you're going to be the face of boxing, and I get it, Jake Paul's doing a lot to, kind of put on that heel persona from wrestling terms, the bad guy, look at me, look at what all I got. He comes out in that, custom-made car and the music and, $1 million trunks and, trying to drum up stuff like he's, again, trying to play the bad guy, trying to play the heel. And, it just, you have to put some substance behind it, When Ric Flair was doing his thing all throughout the 80s and even through the mid-90s, he backed it up. The limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, all that was, he backed it up. You could actually get behind loving or hating him. Nothing in between. I loved him. Always did. Lived in Charlotte. I know he grew up in Minnesota, but he always hailed himself from Charlotte and showed a lot of love for North Carolina. So, a lot of love there for him. But when you're him, you can do that. You can get away with that. But Jake Paul, not so much. Plus, he just doesn't have the charisma. I'm just going to say it. Jake Paul does not have charisma. He really needs to, like I said, step aside. He's clearly built a very nice production company there, Most Valuable Productions, and he needs to step aside and let somebody else be, that guy. Because he ain't got it. I know he built it as a vehicle, to help other people, mainly for himself too, to promote himself, and he had this dream and all that. But you can't make yourself the guy when you're basically going on a wing and a prayer. You just can't do it. As much as he can manipulate the narrative and who he fights and all that. Fight somebody worth the darn or get out of the way. Put somebody in there. Give them the $1 million trunks. Let them ride out and brag about how expensive all their stuff is, and let them do it. Somebody who can actually back it up. So that's my take on that. Like I said, Most Valuable Promotions, they're counting the money right now and feeling happy, but there's got to be some concern too, because like I said, they got some momentum to pick up, because they left a lot of us who tuned in and earned them a lot of money through ad revenue because we tuned in, and all those people who paid all that money to go there, left a lot of us feeling flat. It was good to see Mike Tyson, but I'd have rather just not seen him boxed. Seeing him on Shark Week a couple years ago or a few years ago was a lot more entertaining than that. He was awesome. He was Mike Tyson. He was dealing with sharks, a completely new environment for him. That was awesome. And we didn't have to see his ass, which was kind of nice. So yeah, a lot to learn from them, a lot to go forward. I think they have to reevaluate their identity. Most Valuable Promotions. I think Jake Paul has to make some, very hard decisions. Because I don't think he can be the face of this deal. He just doesn't have the it factor. He doesn't have the pizzazz like Mike Tyson does and did and still does. It's pretty funny they gave him that big, they gave Jake Paul that big introduction and all that, and Mike Tyson, walked out, black trunks, no robe or nothing, just walked out there, and the introduction that tall ring announcer who was very good at his job, about 6'8", 6'9", the introduction he gave to him, the Iron Mike Tyson, the man who always was and always will be the baddest man on the planet. And I'm just thinking to myself, all right, all your social media views will never get you that. What Mike Tyson had, that respect, that's Mike Tyson. People like myself tuning in, wanting to see Mike Tyson, our brains just shutting off the fact that he's going to be 58. We're probably going to not see a very good fight. That this excitement to watch him fight again is going to dissipate. But so that's my takes on that. Mike Tyson's always going to be the man. I think he's going to be remembered forever. Jake Paul, I don't know. It's like I said, just think with a lot of things going on now. Made a lot of money. Made a lot of money last night, but I think he's behind the 8 ball now. He really needs to reestablish momentum from a publicity standpoint. Most Valuable Promotions are going to need to reestablish a lot of momentum going forward. They're going to have to, make sure that, you spend the extra money doing, maybe trial launches for these live streaming promotions to make sure there's no buffering issues. Maybe, work to make sure that, there's a more fair scoring system. The scores are going to be fair. And, quite honestly, just there's a lot. So, they did a lot. I mean, it's amazing they're able to pull that off. But they like I said, they got some momentum to rebuild going forward. So, that's my take on all that. Thank you guys for tuning into these videos, and I'll talk to you later.